Hello, I'm Odin, and on some of my Sunday live streams, I've had people ask, why don't you revisit one of your earlier videos? Why don't you redo one of the props you've done in the past? And I thought, well, what if I did? Today I'm gonna make Captain Carter's shield. I'm gonna start with a nice sheet of 10mm thick HD foam. I measure how wide the sheet is, noting that the sides are not perfectly parallel. Alrighty, well, let's not count on the factory edge being factory perfect. I decided to make the shield 600mm wide, which is a little smaller than the official size, but it's the biggest circle that I can make with this sheet of foam. After making the center, I used some scrap foam core as a compass to mark the circle outline. Notice that I'm holding the pin in the center. I hold them now so my circle doesn't change shape. Then I cut along my pencil line with a sharp razor knife. So I've got my disc of foam, and this is going to be a great size. It looks small against me, but this is the width is fine. But it needs to be shield shaped, and it's not right now, it's just flat. It needs to have the rounded shield shape. I've actually done this before, right? I've actually made a Captain America shield before on my channel. In fact, if you look at the little card popping out right up here, that'll take you to my Captain America shield video if you want to see that. And I'm gonna build this exactly the same way, or at least I'm gonna get the form exactly the same way. And I'm gonna be using the technique from another channel called Lost Wax Oz, which is an awesome channel. If you guys haven't seen it, check it out. He's got some fantastic projects, and his was the first time that I saw the yoga ball technique for getting the shield dome shape. So I'm gonna set this aside and inflate my yoga ball. My yoga ball is still a little dirty. The last time I used this ball, I had made a very simple plaster Paris mold of it, which I then used to make a fiberglass dome. The fiberglass dome was the base of a dancing robot prop that I had made for a music video. Under the base is a big remote-controlled toy, and all the guts of the TV were removed and then replaced with just an LED light. When the video shoot was over, Dayglow wanted to keep the robot. I guess he liked it. I was working on something before I got distracted, right? It's not leaking. All right. The ball sits a little too high on my table. It's not easy to work with or even see on the camera. But it does fit in my trash can. Okay. To do this correctly, you want to use that plastic wrap that you can get for moving stuff, or at the very least, use cling wrap like Lost Wax did. I didn't have either one of those in the shop handy, so I protected my foam with a trash bag and then used duct tape. A lot of duct tape. Like, a lot of duct tape. Plus, the tape didn't want to stick to the ball, so I had to wrap all the way around the ball and then stick the tape back to itself. So I'm happy to admit that my choice of using duct tape may not have been the most economically sound of decisions. And that packing tape, which is the way Lost Wax Oz did it on his channel, is probably a much cheaper option, but I've got what I needed. The big thing here was, honestly, the other idea of just using pallet wrap, that stretch wrap you use for moving or for wrapping up shipping boxes, or even saran wrap, as long as you can get it on there tight enough, is probably also a really good place to start, which is how I did it before. But I wanted to try it this time with just tape because I wanted to do something a little bit different. What I really needed to do, and what I was really trying to be careful of, was to make sure that all the edges, all the way around on the shield, are taped down. Now there's some slight variance, but it doesn't have that ridges, ruffles, you know, the potato chip look. That's what I wanted to avoid. In order to have the foam, keep this shape long term, you need to heat it. Now, I can't really throw this in an oven because the yoga ball isn't going to appreciate that at all, but what I can do is put it in the front seat of my truck for the next couple of days. Stay. It's been a few days, and I need to remove the foam for the ball. Now this time I actually did use a pair of scissors, which is a lot easier to use than the razor knife that I had used in the last video. The foam holds its shape really well. The yoga ball lost a little air and shrank some, but I still have a really good shield shape. Almost. Oh, the reveal would have been so nice if it would have worked. Almost. All right. So I've got really good edges on most of it. It's only got one spot where the tape really let go on the truck and the ball deflated a little bit. So I got to fix these. I spent some time with the heat gun, warming the edges and trying to get them back into being the shape that I want. Mostly, I'm just going for less wavy. The shield has a very specific compound curve, and it's nearly impossible to do this by hand. That's looking a lot better. It's not perfect, but it's a foam shield. I set my combination square to 3 inches and traced a line around the inside of my shield. I measured the circle line, and I know how big I need to cut my inner circle. I cut a strip of poster board and mark a start point and then the radius that I need for a 17-inch circle. And I draw my circle with my poster board compass. Something I learned last time, if you cut straight down, you have to go back and bevel the edge because you're gluing this on the inside of a bowl. So I'm just gonna cut it angled to start with. Not as easy as it sounds, because I'm cutting diagonally through the foam, so I'm cutting a lot more material. But it's going to get glued, so exactly how it looks right now isn't too important. I work out where my hands fit on the inside of the circle, and I mark where my arm will go. This is roughly where I plan to put the straps to hold the shield to my arm. The straps on the inside of the shield are leather, or at least look leather-like, so I'm going to use an old belt. I hold the belt across my marks, so I'm only going to cut into the foam as much as I need so the leather can fit. I had wrapped the belt around my hand and added blue tape to mark the minimum amount that I needed for my hand. So that's the bare minimum. And then I did it again on my forearm, adding marks for where I think I needed to make the cuts for the straps. In order to fit my big arm, what is this? This is a size small belt. Just barely, I think, but I'm gonna go for it. I cut my belt into the straps and press the ends into the foam, marking exactly where I need to cut the foam. Now I'm careful to only cut out what I need for the straps to fit. And if all the blue tape is pushed into the hole, I'll have the correct size. Oh yeah, that's fine. Good. I mean, you know, if it was glued in, it'd be better. But okay, good. There's enough. Sweet. When I made my first Captain America shield, when I made the Steve Rogers version, I ended up including some detail pieces that kind of went around where the arms were because they're there. They're kind of needed on the back of the shield. I did them after the fact and had to cut around the leather straps. I want to add them now so I don't have to cut around the leather straps. So let's get those cut out. If I recall correctly, I did them 2 inches, and then they went off on a 45 for 2 inches. So let's get some material to do that. The width of my carpenter square is 2 inches, so this is a pretty easy pattern to just directly draw onto the foam. Then I cut a pair from 4mm foam, trace where I wanted them to be on the inside of the shield, and then glue them in place with contact cement. It took me a moment last time to figure out that I really wanted to put something behind the arm, something to stiffen this up because there was going to be too much temptation to maybe bend the shield So I'm going to do the same thing and glue some paint sticks in the back, but I want to do it before I put the leather in because it'll be a lot easier to get the paint sticks on here flat. Just 2 typical paint sticks will be fine. I trace where I want them to go and contact cement them in place right behind where my arm is going to be. The leather slips through the cutouts that I made in the foam. I had also sanded the finish off of the leather. Contact cement will adhere so much better to a rough surface. I just fold the tabs over and the cement will stick just fine. To help hide where the leather fits into the foam, I cut some small panels that can be glued right next to the straps. I apply contact cement to the edge of the circle and to the inside of the shield, following the pencil line. You can give it a couple of minutes to dry, and then you can stick them both together. I tried to follow the line and stay on the inside of the line because this will help keep the inner panel level. Apply contact cement behind the detail pieces, and when they are ready, I can stick them to the inside of the curved shield. And then trim the excess off those pieces. Something for me to remember is that this is the minimum that I need to fit my big hand and forearm, which should give plenty of room for anyone else who's wearing a glove and a full costume.
The nice thing with this particular shield design, you can do almost any shield you want, as long as it's around. So that's kind of cool. I'm actually I really dig the method that Chris figured out, and I'm really happy with the way that I've modified it slightly for mine. This is a really cool, easy to do shield build. You put some detail on it.
First thing I need to do is round over the edge of the shield. A rotary tool and a grinding stone will be great for this. This takes about half an hour to do, but the results can greatly improve the look of the edge of the shield, and it really helps hide the cut foam look. If you don't have a shop vac already, you're going to want to get one if you've got a rotary tool. Some of the last details I really want inside of the shield are rivets. Now these are the same tiny foam discs that drop out of the Foam Armory's EVA foam chainmail, and I've used them quite a bit on my Mechagodzilla build, and with just a single drop of super glue, they stay in place.
Much nicer than cutting the heads off of nails.
Although the heads off of nails are definitely lower profile. Oops, I forgot a couple. At least these don't have any danger of scratching you. At the last minute, I decided that I did want a panel line around the inside of the shield, so I used my poster board compass again for the pencil line, and then lightly cut a line into the foam, just a millimeter or so deep. When you use a heat gun on these little cuts, the surface of the foam shrinks just a little bit, opening the cuts up and making nice panel lines. You just need to be careful not to cook the foam.
Oh, there it goes burning. I knew it'd burn. I knew I could do that. I really wasn't sure if I wanted to. I'm happy I've got the circles in here. It's a little detail. It's just something else on the inside, and it breaks up the only circle it had. So I'm happy with this. It'll all just be silver, but it's fine. Now I need to do this side. To help me with this next step, I set my 1, 2, 3 blocks onto a Lazy Susan, and then I can balance the shield on it. The rings and the face of the shield is very similar to Steve's version, but there is one big difference. So I'm going to start with the rings first, and I'm going to do the center the same thing as I did before with a 4.5 inch diameter circle. I can still see the center point of the shield, so I place my pen right there again and draw a circle with a 4.5 inch radius. The Lazy Susan does help with this. Then I move out another 2.5 inches and trace the outside of the first color ring, and move out another 2.5 inches, and I get my last color separation. And I now have 3 rings for the red, white, and blue colors. I make another shallow cut along all the pencil lines that I drew. And it is possible to do this in just one step, poke a hobby knife through the poster board and scribe the foam directly. But I've made mistakes doing that. And if you look closely right now, you can see that I did wander with my pencil lines. I'd rather just do these as separate steps and have less to fix. I did make myself a template for the Union Jack. Orientation is important. I don't want to put this flag on upside down or print it wrong, so I'm very confident with the artwork that I got drawn up here. I did mark the center point of the pattern because that way I can find it on the center point of the shield. There it is. And I've marked up with the blue tape, so I can go up the pattern, and that way, when the shield is held on the left arm, the orientation of the flag will be correct, which is important. My plan was to poke a needle through the paper and into the foam, creating a dot to dot, like the puzzles you do, where you just follow the dots of the numbers, but mine isn't going to have any numbers. This mostly worked, but it was really hard to see the pinholes, and I needed some extra pencil dots to help get started. And my real fear, my real concern is that I would connect the wrong two dots, and I would cut a line that would be really hard to fix at this stage of the build. I mean, this is it. After these panel lines are made, it's on to painting the shield. So I need to make sure that all the cuts I make are correct. I just need to open the panel lines up with a heat gun again and not burn the surface of my foam.
All right, I think I've got the details that I need to have on the front. I've got all the scribe lines are actually here to help with painting, right? All these are guidelines for where the colors are going to go. And the detail that's on the back, well, that's pretty much exactly the same detail I had from my old Captain America shield. I updated it a little bit, but that's pretty much the same thing, which is the whole point of the what if stories, right? It's ever so slightly changed. So I still think I've done this in a way that is accessible for most of you. I know that one of my patrons, NetHeads, the foam Captain America shield was one of his first foam builds, and he did a really good job with it and had a lot of fun. So I'm kind of curious if he has any interest in giving Captain Carter a try. But for right now, I need to get some Plastidip on this so we can get painted. I did use a little Alex Fast Dry spackle to fill the center pinhole, and I wrapped the leather straps with blue tape because I really don't want to paint them at all. The shield was sprayed with a couple of coats of black Plastidip spray. Black Plastidip is always easier to use, but I wanted a base white color because of the red, white, and blue colors that are going to be painted on top of this. And the white base is going to make those colors much brighter than just trying to paint over the black. Trust me on that. Now the bottom is done with a metallic. This is actually kind of hard to see in the show. It's almost always backlit, but I assume it's a steel color or dark steel color, just like the Steve Rogers version. Something is really hard to see on camera. There is a very subtle shading job that Joe has gone through and done with the airbrush around the edges of what will be the white ring. Just a little bit darker. I can see it, the cameras can't. It's too subtle for the cameras to pick up, but it's here. And the reason for that is later on, he wants to put highlights on in stark white and wants to be able to see the highlights separate from the white ring. I just need now to cover the white ring so we can start putting the next colors on. So I get to tape everything off. I stick strips of painter's tape onto some label backing paper, then cut small strips that'll fit over the white areas on the shield. What I mean by label backing paper, it's that slick feeling paper that stickers and custom cut vinyl is stuck to when you first get them. I had saved a few bigger sheets from a different video shoot, and they could be really nice to have to work with. With all the white on the Union Jack covered, I used the same poster board compass to cut out the correct radius onto some tape and cover the white stripe on the shield. And I need to do both edges because the white ring is between the red and the blue rings. Joe is using his airbrush and PlaidFX to paint the shield, and it doesn't take long to get the red areas covered. Joe lets the paint sit for an hour or so and then tapes over the red that needs to stay red, and sprays a little white over the red base, getting it ready for the blue paint. He starts painting blue on the ring first, giving the center more time to dry, and then moves on to the blue triangles that are in the center. The blue color he started with was not a deep enough blue color, so he mixed up some black paint into the blue and got a far more accurate blue for the shield. Peel all the tape. Next time, turn on the camera, Joe. And we've got a great Captain Carter shield. But Joe wants to do animation style shading on it, and I like that idea. Using the same image as a reference, he masks the shield with blue tape. I held the shield upright so Joe could airbrush the shadows onto the shield in the correct orientation, and added a little shading to the back as well. Peeling the tape and you can really see the shadows in the shield. After the paint gets some time to dry, more masking is done for the highlights, which are a pure white color. This pure white is why Joe did some subtle shading to the first white ring. The differences in the white are still really hard to see on camera, but I can see them.
Wow, it can actually adjust to me. Wow, that's cool. I like it.
And once the paint sets, I can spray it with a clear coat. All the materials I used for this project I already had in the shop. I put a list in the description.
Oh, the clear coat's giving it a little bit of extra specularity, a little more shine to it. That's really pretty cool. I'm very happy with the animated cel-shaded painting style that's on the shield. This is really very cool. Thank you, Joe. I really appreciate your help again with this video and with this painting. And yeah, this was definitely fun to do. I'm really glad that What If is on the air now and doing their thing, because there's a lot more Marvel props I might get a second chance at doing. I mean, I could remake anyone I wanted at any time, but if something comes out on the show, I actually get a better excuse, even personally, for why I could do it again. So this was really very, very cool. And I'm really glad that I was able to get it to be slightly larger. This is a little bit larger than my original Steve Rogers shield, because the HD foam was almost 24 inches in diameter, or 24 inches wide, where I could only get 22 inches worth of good foam out of the floor mat foam that I used for making Steve Rogers shield. I'm kind of curious if there's going to be an episode where the Thanos copter blade is going to be breaking this shield too. I'm not quite as comfortable with cutting this one up. But I hope you enjoyed the video. The techniques are pretty much the same. I'm going to take the same pattern that I made for myself. I'm going to have a link in the description so you can download your own guide to help you with this part if you'd like. Super huge thank yous to the channel Lost Wax Oz and Chris for having such an easy and fun way of making a domed shield using a yoga ball. This was a lot of fun. And I know that there's going to be lots of different ways you can make an alternate reality shield for Captain Carter, but this is how Odin makes.
Nice. What do you think?
Of course, it's left-handed.
Right, yeah, but there.
There you go.
There.
I want to thank Daniel Jackson, Michael Norman, Moon Eyes 2K, and all of my Patreon supporters. Patreon members at the $5 and above level get access to my private Discord, which includes weekly games with me, prop-related chat, and early access to live streams. My Patreon support is the #1 thing that makes this show possible. If you like the video, don't forget to subscribe. Have an idea for something for me to make? Please leave a comment below. And if you make any of these projects, you can send me a picture.